Hi, welcome to Book Drops. I'm Sarah Flynn. I'm the manager of the Popular Library, and I have a guest today.
Hi, my name is Eric Hanshaw. I'm a children's librarian in the Youth Services Department.
Thanks so much for coming and talking to me today.
I'm very excited. I can't wait.
We have been planning this for, I think we figured about 6 months.
About 6 months, yeah.
I have read a bunch, and it was hard to narrow. We have our favorites that we definitely want to talk about, and a whole bunch of different options as we go. So we have a lot of good recommendations for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about a little bit of the history of it. In 1969, I'll Get There. It Better Be Worth the Trip by John Donovan is considered to be the earliest teen LGBTQIA novel. A lot of the early literature ended with tragedy, and so then as the timeline goes on, in 82, Annie on My Mind by Nancy Garden, it was about 2 girls in New York City, and that had a happy ending, and that was kind of like a turning point. I know. And then really, you think now, oh, there's got to be, by the early 90s, there's got to be, hundreds and hundreds of, and there's not.
Yeah.
And so I really learned a lot reading about this. And then at the time, in the 90s as well, many gay characters were only side characters. They weren't the main protagonists. And actually, that's true for a lot of different characters. There's very little diversity in terms of race and early books as well. So we hope today to share with you a lot of different choices. We have graphic novels. We have I have one verse, and yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to get started here. I was just saying to you, Sarah, that when we were talking about this, I was like YA, young adult, like queer books and like fiction, and like graphic novels. And I was thinking I'm gonna probably do half and half, but I couldn't stay away. Graphic novels are near and dear to my heart. I read a ton of them, so my balance is a little skewed in that direction. I'm a big fan of anime and manga, so I have quite a few of those titles, along with some other graphic novels.
Nice. I'm really excited. I've got a few graphic novels, but I want to hear about more. We definitely have one that we both read.
Yes.
Which is the one I've finished most recently, so I'm the most excited about, which won a ton of awards and very well for a good reason, because it's an excellent book. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. And I read it so quickly. I don't know why. It'd been on my list and one of those that you see around and just, don't get to it. And then by the time you do, you're like, oh, this is excellent. Did you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually am mainly like an audiobook reader.
Oh, nice.
And I had to do this one because Lin-Manuel Miranda reads this one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I do lots of audiobooks, and I didn't know that.
And it's as good as you think it is. It really is. He is just an excellent narrator. Brings all both distinct voices of both Ari and Dante. They just come to life. And what I really liked about this book is how conversational it is. We spend a lot of time with Dante. Ari. Yeah, Ari. It's been a minute for that one. With Ari, and we spend a lot of time in his head, but we also spend so much time with their friendship and just watching that evolve. And I love how the author writes. He's a poet. He's published a lot of books of poetry, and you can just tell, just the phrases he puts together. I actually pulled out a small segment.
Yeah,
is that okay
please.
if I share it?
Yeah.
It's very short. It's a chapter. I'm just going to read it, but I just love it. It's mostly a conversation. What do you love, Ari? What do you really love? I love the desert. God, I love the desert. It's so lonely. Is it? Dante didn't understand. I was unknowable. And that's it. That's the whole chapter.
Yeah.
And I find it so beautiful, so breathtaking.
And I like, Ari's not a people person, and he's withdrawn. He doubts himself a lot. And his family are kind of closed off emotionally a little more. And then he meets Dante, who's almost opposite in a lot of ways. and how they're immediately, even being so different, are just drawn to each other and
Yeah.
love spending time together, even when they first meet.
Yeah.
It's just a lovely story.
Yeah, I just enjoyed the heck out of that one. And yes, it did win a lot of awards, and it has a sequel out.
I know, which I need to do. And do you know if Lin-Manuel Miranda reads?
He does read it.
Oh my gosh,
They
very
brought him
so.
back for the sequel. So if you're an audiobook reader, I would definitely check those out.
And yeah, and it's lovely about like, like little like things like you appreciate in life. Like he loves his like the dog and the truck and driving out to the desert and lots of like nice like how to find like pleasure out of like small things in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me one of your picks.
So I'm going to go with Kings of Bemore by R. Eric Thomas. So Aristotle and Dante is a lot about like identity. There's a lot about like discovering yourself, and it's the relationship between Ari and Dante is the crux, the key of that story, and the friendship between Linus and Harrison is the key to this story. So this is a really fun book. First off, it's based off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's the catalyst here. So Harrison here and Linus are best friends. They're both queer. They're both out. They are just living their lives openly, and they're best friends. Well, one day during the summer, Harrison finds out Linus is moving away. And he's afraid that their friendship is not going to survive this move. So he plans what he calls Ferris Day. He plans a day of adventures to help create these core memories so that their friendship will survive. And it is just a great testament to two characters who are unapologetically queer, who are just living their lives, and it celebrates them. There's not a lot of angst, and there's nothing wrong with angst. I don't want to like say this to say that like, angst or like, questions of like identity or struggles with that are not great reads, but it is just great to see characters.
Something that's fun.
Just fun,
Yeah.
and their queer identities is just incidental, really.
It doesn't have to be a traumatic coming out book for every single teen book that there is.
Exactly.
Nowadays, yeah.
Exactly. That's why I really enjoyed this book, and I'm not going to do this with every book, I promise.
Fine. It's so tempting because it gives you a good example.
Yeah, there's a bit at the towards the end. Let's see. Yeah. So they're overhearing music. They let the words take a break for a moment as the music and the singing and the motorbikes and the honking and what seemed like the entire city bustled around them. They talked or exchanged looks, standing there on that street corner in the middle of Baltimore. This space between their two faces was where their friendship lived. It was where they lived, free and vibrant and magical together in this connection they made. I thought, again, really great prose in this book.
Nice. I snuck in one that's not YA, but it's just lovely, and I couldn't leave it out. This really is, I read this book a few years ago, and still I recommend it to people probably like every few weeks because it's charming. This is House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It's not YA, but I think it's still, I don't know why it's, I don't know why it's not. It may be like considered new adult or something, but.
The boundaries blur, like it's all arbitrary, really.
I double checked it. I was like, how is this not YA? Anyway, there's this caseworker, Linus. He works for the Department of Magical Youth, and he kind of, takes cases of like magical kids who are orphaned and need new homes, and is called in for like a special case where he is supposed to go to an orphanage on an island and do like a wellness check, like see how the kids are doing. The people who run the place aren't too sure about it. It's a little like unorthodox they hear. And it's just hard to explain how charming it is. So he gets out there. This orphanage, it's kind of like the guy who runs it is a free spirit and lets the kids kind of find themselves. The different orphaned kids are amazing. I was trying to find fan art before this because you can't describe. One kid is a garden gnome. One is a wyvern, which is kind of like a dragon. One is just like a green blobby, like slimy kid. And one is the Antichrist.
Oh, wow.
So there's and it's just charming. Really, I think the biggest theme is like found family. So Linus feels like he doesn't really belong anywhere and goes out. And by the time he like works with all of these kids, he really, is kind of brought out of his shell. So it's a great book. And I have to read more T.J. Klune because I've heard all of his books are good.
And that's funny. That's a great little connection. 2 different Linuses here.
Yeah.
And found family really is like a recurring theme I've found in a lot of the books that I've read. Speaking of magic and fantasy, this one I loved. I loved all these books, but this one, so I grew up with Sailor Moon. I love Sailor Moon. I love the magical girl genre. I just think it's fun, and it's all about like these really like beautiful effects and beautiful animation. Well, Magical Boy is a twist on that. It is a loving parody. The author is The Cow, and it is about Max. And Max is trans. And Max, he comes from a long line. He discovers shortly after the beginning of this story that he comes from a long line of magical girls, and he is the next one to inherit this. And Max struggles with this because like the magical girl genre is very like rigid in its gender dynamics, and Max is trans, but Max wants to do this his way. And he decides he's going to be Magical Boy. And
I love the cover.
It's a beautiful cover and great art. If you love Sailor Moon and, like me, and you like anime and manga, you'll recognize a lot of the influences here. And speaking of found family, like one of the great things about this book too is that like Max does have issues with like his relationship with his mom, because she wants him to kind of take on this mantle and what she thinks this would be, and Max wants to do it his way. But he gets a lot of support from his best friend Jen, and Jen is really like also his family. So really good pick. The second volume's coming out, I believe, later this year. It's a 2-parter, so that will be the concluding volume.
Nice. Torn. I'm going to do one with a trans protagonist. So this one's pretty well known. It's Felix Ever After by Case and Callender. And I just watched a little video that the author put up today because I'd read this one at least more than a year ago, I think. But Felix Love, they say he's never been in love. Trans, he thinks that people don't find him lovable. And is at art school and kind of trying to find his group. And this, I will say, is like a dramatic. It's definitely has lots of tough issues. Out of my picks, kind of one of the more difficult things like happen in the book. He has a lot of really difficult things that happen. So the first one being he goes into his art school and someone in the hall has made a transphobic attack on him by putting up photos of him before his transition. So, which was just shocking and difficult, and just can't believe that anyone would be so cruel. So throughout the book, like, is so angry from that, like trying to get revenge, trying to find out who did it, has a really close friend that he's confused about feelings for, and then kind of gets into a love triangle. And then, has to really find out about like how to love himself first. And it's a great book. It's, sometimes books that are too heavy, it's like too much, but I felt like there was such a mix of like light and dark in this that it was worth it.
That sounds great. That one's on my list. I'd really, that one I think is probably gonna be my next one.
Good.
After I get done with the sequel to this book.
I think Magic Boy is my next one.
So I'm currently reading the sequel to this book, but I wanted to talk about the first one. Dariuss the Grey is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. It stars Dariuss. He is probably one of the most, he's the teenage protagonist I saw myself most in. Just kind of like awkward, not like really fitting in anywhere, like really capture that feeling of just being like a teenager and like wanting to find your place. Dariuss, he lives in Portland. He is multiracial. His mother's Persian and his dad is Caucasian. And he finds out that his maternal grandfather is dying. And him and his family travel to Iran to be with him. And this brings up like identity issues for Dariuss because he struggles with like his Persian identity because where he grows up, he wasn't raised with a lot of that culture. And you don't really find out in this book that Dariuss is gay. It comes in the sequel, but I don't really think it's a spoiler because it's pretty upfront. But I actually really enjoyed reading this book knowing those things because you could see how the author coded the main character queer, and I feel like a lot of those like identity questions that Dariuss goes through in this book kind of do hint at an identity, and some people don't like always quite wrestle with these kind of questions like right away. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I'm enjoying the sequel. I'm actually currently reading it right now.
I have one that is really fun, and I just love this. Snapdragon by Kat Lee, and this is the middle grade book. And it's just heartwarming. There's magic, really diverse characters throughout the whole thing, and it's a graphic novel. Snap meets Jax, who people call a witch, and she lives kind of at the edge of town and is a little weird, and Snap doesn't quite fit in herself, so she, right at the beginning, is kind of tough and goes out there, and her dog is missing, and so she meets Jax, and they kind of have this like friendship, and Jax takes roadkill and does oh my gosh, what is it? Or you like stuff them? I guess you
Taxidermy?
Yeah, it's like taxidermy, and does these like little like things with them, and everyone thinks it's really creepy. And Snap is like, this is the most amazing job I've ever seen. So wants to learn about anatomy, helps out with it, and Jax was just making like, it would be like a bunny, and it would just be like this bunny, and Snap is like, why don't you have the bunny like running and doing like, so they work together, and just a really cute friendship. And then throughout the thing, she has a best friend. Jax has this whole complex past, and slowly you just learn that Jax is magical, and Snap starts to learn a little bit of magic, and there's so many like great parts in this, like Jax is like teaching this certain way. You have to learn it like my way, and it's not working, and like they both learn like it doesn't have to be just one way. We can both do things different ways. And, I can't say enough about it. I just love this one.
Yeah, that sounds great. I see that one go out a lot, so I think that's a pretty popular title too. So
yeah, and the dog is called Good Boy.
Good Boy. Oh,
Three-legged.
how can you get better than that? Really. So my next one, speaking of fun graphic novels, I also love this one. I'm gonna say a lot about all these books, because I love it a lot. But I Think Our Son is Gay by Okura. This is a manga, and really the main character is Tomoko, and she is a mother of two sons. One of them is Hiroki, and she believes Hiroki might be gay. And it's from her perspective, and we see through her eyes these like little signs that Hiroki's probably gay. It's pretty clear, but he's not quite ready to come out. And she's the model ally. She is the model like mother that you would want for a young gay teenager to have. She is very supportive. There's a scene early in where her husband comes home and says something a little homophobic about like a TV show he had seen, and Tomoko, she steps in and gently corrects him and reframes what he said in a way that is very positive. But it's very slice of life. Nothing like huge or dramatic happens. The most dramatic thing that happens is the boy that Tomoko thinks Hiroki has a crush on comes over to visit. But it's more comedy than like drama, but not to say that there isn't like, identity talk in this book. But it's really cute, really quick read, very short chapters. I love it.
Great. I have and it's funny, a lot of these have, like you were saying, yours was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I have a few coming up that all have like corollaries. This is pretty much like any like 90s like teen like romance. But this is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. And Scotty is on the basketball team at her high school. She is playing her ex-girlfriend's team, so already like fraught with emotion, and they lose. And then gets in a fender bender with like the meanest girl in school. And this girl just was like, please, I can't get in trouble. My mom is gonna kill me. So they decide to fake date, which is an excellent romance trope. So to get back at her ex, she bribes Irene to fake date her. So she was like, I won't tell, but you have to date me. And we'll make my ex jealous. It'll be amazing. And of course, you know where it goes from there. But it's really a lot of fun.
I love that cover too.
Oh, and she's basketball and she's a cheerleader.
Oh, naturally,
Different worlds.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you bring that one up because my next pick is also very much in line with like teen movie tropes. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. So I read a little bit of like an interview with the author, and one of her big inspirations was John Hughes movies and 90s teen movies. And you can really see that because this stars Liz Leidy, who is the smartest girl in her grade. She is valedictorian, and she wants to go to the college of her dreams. The problem is that she did not get the scholarship she was counting on. She got accepted, but she just doesn't quite have the money. However, the school she goes to, prom is everything. Prom is everything. And the prom king and queen, they each get a $10,000 scholarship. So now Liz's mission is to become prom queen. But along the way, one of the fellow contenders for prom queen is the mysterious new girl, Mac. And they begin to get to know each other. And this is another great story where Liz, she starts the story already knowing her identity. She identifies as queer, and she that's never called into question. And one topic that is brought up in this book that I thought was really nice and something that I like to see like different discussions of in like YA literature is there's a time when Liz is letting Mac know about like herself, like her identity. But says that she doesn't really want it to get out, and Mac brings up like, oh, I understand, maybe it's a safety thing. And I like to see like more nuanced discussions of things like that, of like coming out narratives. It's not like that's the whole story, but I thought that was a really nice moment in the book.
Another fun fun one. This is Back to the Future, pretty much. So Luis, outgoing, popular. He goes to like kind of a progressive school, but still not progressive enough to let you bring your boyfriend to prom. So prom, another theme. So he's like fighting with his principal, and he just, you know, is just like super outgoing. So there's kind of this, his mom is kind of worried about his safety, and she kind of alludes to when she was in high school that something happened to one of the kids, and she just wants him to always be safe. And he gets knocked on the head back to 1985 at the parents' high school. And the biggest bully, he meets this kid, and then the biggest bully is his dad, which is just like, oh man. So he's juggling like how to fix all of this in the past while also trying to get back to his own time.
Wow.
So
that's quite a plot. I'm intrigued. I want to know what happens next.
I know.
So I also have one that is kind of like that, like between middle grade and YA, but it's an art graphic novel, The Prince and the Dressmaker. So this, and this is by Jen Wang, and it's kind of, it's like set in Paris. The back of the book says at the dawn of the modern age, so kind of like a historical bent, but stars Prince Sebastian, who is the prince, and his parents are wanting him, like pressuring him to get married. But Sebastian has a secret. He likes to dress up in gowns and wears a wig and go out as Lady Crystalia. He meets Frances, an aspiring dressmaker, and hires her to make dresses for him. And the two of them develop this friendship that kind of also might have romantic undertones too.
Sounds like a romance.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It has beautiful illustrations. I absolutely love it, and I liked that for this title too. That has a lot of reviewers. Like I was looking at reviews for the books when I was ordering it, and before we came, and like people brought up like this, that Sebastian kind of might represent like a gender fluid kind of character. So, and I think that really shows through, so I really appreciate that.
Nice. We have time for one more. Would you want to sneak in one more? I didn't want you to have to skip any of yours. It's up to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll let you, because I want to hear about Squad.
You want to hear about Squad? Okay.
I want to hear about Squad.
So this is another one. I wrote down, this is Buffy plus Clueless.
I'm sold.
But I know, like, how could you not? And then I looked online, and somebody said Pretty Little Liars plus Teen Wolf, which is pretty good too. So graphic novel. I didn't say by Maggie Takuda Hall and Lisa Sterling. And then the tagline is anyone would kill to belong, which is great. So new girl, new high school, feels awkward, like she's not gonna fit in. Immediately, like the popular crowd like grabs her up, all these popular girls, dress her up, and it's very like Clueless, so they like dress her up to go out and stuff she would never wear, and get to a party. All the girls are werewolves and initiate her, and they pick guys at the party who are trying to lure girls away to have their way with them, and they kill them. So it is pretty amazing. So it gets a little complicated, as things do when you're a teenage werewolf who are killing teenage boys. So it's really just campy, and like there's like big blood splatters. Like through the book, it's just really fun.
Yeah.
It's everything you would want.
I'm sold. It's, as someone who likes The Lost Boys, this sounds right up my alley.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good. Well, I really thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thank you. I had a ton of fun. I can't believe it's you.
I know. By the time you start talking, you're like, wait. But I'd hope you come back and do this again.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd love to.
Good. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us.